For 10 long years, we ruled the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming to an end. But down here, just chinking the armor is enough to lose a friend. Some of the old generals have retired and gone, and the runs don't come as they did before. But when the two sails go, don't you know the desert is gone? We've lost the battle, but yet we will win the war. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rally from the West Indies, and forever. Rally from the West Indies, never say never. Pretty soon the runs are going to flow again like water, bringing so much joy to each and every son and daughter. I say we're gonna rise again like a raging fire. As the sun shines, you know we can take it higher. But we got to work. Rally from the West Indies, forever, yeah. Rally from the West Indies, way down under, a warrior falls. Michael holding fall to the heat of the battle. Michael should have left long time. I heard an angry brother shout, Caribbean man, that is the root of our trouble. In these tiny theaters of conflict and confusion, that are known as the eyes of the West Indies. We already know who brought us here and who created this confusion. So I'm begging my people, please, tell them, rally from the West Indies, forever, yeah. Rally from the West Indies, never say never. Pretty soon the rallies are going to blow again like bringing so much joy to each and every son. And I said we're gonna rise again like a raging. As the sun shines, you know we can take it higher. But we got to rally from the West Indies, forever, yeah. Rally from the West Indies, now and forevermore. Yeah, 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 yeah.
1964, Joan and Jane, that won the Monarch. This man is still performing, 71 years old, and for 1999, he was the humor king of TNT. If you're ready, put your hands together for the mighty Bummer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Old man does dream dreams and young men see visions. I have seen a long chain of archipelago islands, and in my vision I heard a voice telling me it is the best choice for people of the region to choose, enjoy and rejoice. Rejoice! I asked the voice to identify who, what, when, where, how, and why. USWI is the answer the voice reply, which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movements, and one currency. If we pool wisdom and resources in our quest for sufficiencies, Baba, tell them your vision, please. The United States of the West Indies. Bum, 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 bum. A mixture of race, class, color, and lingo, with a grace of cricket, football, steel band, and calypso. But still we need more fortune and fame in art and culture and sporting game. Internationally, we will get more worldly acclaim. Big name, the voice told me it is evident that we must have a strong government in the United States of the West Indies Parliament, which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movements, and one destiny, our children and children's children will inherit our well-sown seeds. So Bama, plead on your bended knees for the United States of the West Indies. Bum, 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 bum. Great talents and skills all over the region, ancestral blessings and wills mixed with pride and passion. And as we believe in democracy, faith in God and tranquility, our people will prosper from now till eternity. Oh, gee. And when Carifta is said and done, the motto is all that we is one, with a West Indian emblem portraying the rising sun. Which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movements, and one currency. The voice told me, take this message, please, outlining all its amenities, and saying, Bama, here are the golden keys to the United States of the West Indies. St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla, Cuba, Barbados, Martinique, Montserrat and Antigua, the Cayman Islands, Puerto Rico, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Hispaniola, and so the Virgin Islands, Haiti, if you please, Guyana and the Netherlands, Antilles, Guadeloupe and the Bahamas are begging you to tell them, please. Now let me tell them if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movements, and one destiny. Many nations will want to join us for economic stabilities. So Burma, sing them an anthem, please, of the United States of the West Indies.
The United States of the West Indies, the mighty Burma, and before that, the ever-living, ever-present David Rudder rally around the West Indies. It's that kind of night, a Caribbean night. Please share the live and let them know that we are on tonight. The night may be stormy, but joy cometh in the morning. We have always had our difficulties, but we've got to see them through. And we are
people want to know why Jamaica run from the Federation. Well, they want to know why Jamaica run away from the Federation. Jamaica have a right to speak your mind. That is my opinion. And if you believe in democracy, you'll agree with me. But if they know they didn't want federation, and they know they don't want to unite as one, independence was at the door. Why didn't they speak before? This is no time to say you are federating no more. Whoa, 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 la da dee dee, la da dee dee, la da dee dee, when they didn't get the capital site, that nearly caused big fight. When Sir Grantley Adams took up his post, that even made things worse. They balling. We ain't want no Bajan premier. Trinidad can't be capital for here. So the grumbling went on and on to a big referendum. But if they know they didn't want federation, and they know they don't want to unite as one and only one, I said to tell the doctor you're not in favor. Don't behave like a blasted traitor. How the devil you mean you're federating no more? Sorry, but no federation again. I think it's a big shame. After so much efforts and energy put by everybody, right now it's only a memory. We fail miserably. Some may say we shouldn't help part it, but the Jamaica will start it. If they know they didn't want federation, and they know they don't want to unite as one, Just tell the doctor you're not in favor. Don't behave like a blasted traitor. This is no time to say you are federating no more. Whoa, whoa, la da dee dee la da dee dee Federation boils down to simply this: is dog eat dog and survival of the fittest. Everybody fighting for independence, singularly Trinidad, for instance. We gon' get it too, so don't bother. But I find we should all be together, not separated as we are because of Jamaica. If they know they didn't want federation, and they know they don't want to unite as one, tell the doctor you're not in favor. Don't behave like a blasted traitor. How the devil you mean you are federated no more? Outside, man.
Oh, the devil. You're saying you don't want federation no more. I might lose friends, supporters, whatever we call ourselves. On this matter, I rather stand alone. The Mighty Sparrow there was singing about the Federation, the United West Indies, 1958 to 1962. Guyana was not part of that federation. Guyana was not part. The PPP did not take our country into a West Indies federation, into West Indies nation. It lasted for 4 years. And then Jamaica went to a referendum, and Dr. Eric Williams said after Jamaica voted to leave the federation, Dr. Eric Williams said 1 from 10 leaves nothing. And the federation went to bed, as the Black Stallion says. But we never lost hope. We moved from the Federation to Carifta, to the Little Eight, and then to CARICOM in 1973, the Treaty of Chaguaramas. Guyana was not taken into the Federation by a PPP government that said that its supporters, East Indians, would become a minority in a West Indies federation. So Sparrow should say it's Guyana where started and Jamaica ended. Today, the Caribbean Court of Justice, which we worked so hard for, so hard, is rocked by scandal. At the center of that scandal is a Jamaican and the Guyana government. History has a way of reminding us of unfinished business. In 1958, Guyana was started because Guyana refused, under the PPP government, to take us into the Federation. In 2026, almost 70 years later, it's the PPP government, again, based on everything we are hearing, as some or the other sought to corrupt the CCJ and the Jamaican justice seems to be at the center of it. It seems that our Guyana, especially those who find themselves outside of the halls of power, political power, in particular African Guyanese, are raising their voices. And I hear calls for us to leave the CCJ. I'm pained, but I understand the origins of those calls. I cannot support those calls. I cannot support those calls. We've come too far. We have come too far. Guyana or Jamaica or St. Lucia or Nevis is not an island. We may be physically islands, but economically and politically, we are not islands. We are joined together by 400 years and more of history, heritage, and destiny. I cannot support calls for us to leave the CCJ. I have theorized that the scandal at the CCJ is not the problem. The scandal is a consequence of the problem. The problem is a government in Guyana that is captured by a rampant East Indian economic and political elite that is using the unexpected wealth from oil and gas to corrupt the Guyanese state and society. And since the CCJ is part of the Guyanese state, the long arms of the corruption is enveloping the CCJ. That, for me, is the problem. I understand why some Guyanese are saying, leave the CCJ. Because sections of the Guyanese population are frustrated and they lash out at everything. Understandably so. But if we leave the CCJ, where do we go? We come back to our own Court of Appeal. Have we not realized that our own Court of Appeal itself has been corrupted and itself is under the control of the PPP? I understand the knee-jerk reaction. The problem is not the CCJ. There are not scandals in the CCJ in relation to cases in Barbados or Trinidad or Jamaica, or it's in relation to Guyana. It is Guyana that is corrupting the CCJ. I'm pleading with my fellow Guyanese to recognize that this problem is deeper, as the problems in our Guyana are themselves very deep. And that in our state of frustration, we lash out. It is the Guyanese government and its friends among the East Indian elite in Guyana who are corrupting and messing up the CCJ. If we want to solve the problem, our analysis must start there. I remember well after the Myrie case, a young lady who was, I think, deported from Barbados, Jamaican woman, and she sued the Barbados state, and the case went to the CCJ, and the CCJ ruled that she was entitled to enter Barbados based on the Treaty of Chaguaramas. And that Barbados government was wrong to deport her. Well, to detain her and deport her. And Barbados argued that Jamaica was not part of the CCJ, and so therefore a Jamaican national could not sue the Barbadian government. The court ruled that by virtue of the fact that Jamaica is a signatory to the Treaty of Chaguaramas and is a member of CARICOM, a Jamaican national has every right to sue the Barbadian government. Fundell Stewart, the then Prime Minister of Barbados, threatened that if he won the next election, he would remove Barbados from the CCJ because he felt the CCJ had imposed on Barbados sovereignty. Thank God he lost the next election, and Barbados is still part of the CCJ. Most of the Caribbean countries, most of them, are not part of the CCJ. It's the meaning that the CCJ is not the court of last resort. They've remained with the Privy Council, which is the British court of last resort. And many of the Caribbean countries have decided to remain with Britain as the court of last resort rather than the CCJ. In fact, I think in Grenada and Antigua and St. Vincent, there were actually referenda, asking the people of those countries whether they want to join the CCJ. And they said no. In most cases, the votes have been partisan, where one party does not necessarily want to go into the CCJ. But the majority of West Indian countries, therefore, are not part of the CCJ. And the argument made is that the CCJ would become a political tool. In the Eastern Caribbean, that is the OECS country, what we call the small islands, they have an Eastern Caribbean court. They have their own CCJ. They have a common court, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Antigua, etc., the countries in the Eastern Caribbean. They have a common court, the Eastern Caribbean Court. And by the way, they have a common currency, the EC. So their integration in the Eastern Caribbean is a model, a common currency and a common court. Have they had their problems? Oh yes, they've had their problems. Has the court been accused of favoritism? Well, yes. But the EC is still strong, stable currency. The Eastern Caribbean Court is still intact. Many Guyanese have served on that court. I cannot support the cause that Guyana must exit the CCJ, which of course is going to be followed that we must exit CARICOM. I cannot go there. And if I am one voice, no sabi. The Caribbean Court has not, in a political sense, aligned itself in its rulings in relation to high-profile cases in Guyana. In 2020, to my mind, the CCJ took jurisdiction away from our Court of Appeal and decided the 2020 elections in favor of the PPP. There were grumblers then of political favoritism on the CCJ. Many people called then that for Guyana to leave the Federation, to leave CARICOM, sorry. I argued against it. You have to be very careful not to throw the baby with the bathwater. Clearly, the court is in crisis. The CCJ is in crisis. What is happening in the CCJ is really a struggle, a reflection of the struggle for the scope to govern ourselves. That is the question. Are we capable of, as a Caribbean people, to govern ourselves? And so the logic of removing from the CCJ, I think, is not logical. If Guyana is a failing state or a failed state, why are we arguing that we should abandon a regional court and come back to the court in a failed or failing state? And that is why I'm arguing the court, our courts in Guyana and the CCJ are not the problem. The problem is the government of Guyana and its collusion with the East Indian elites in their quest to control Guyana and its wealth. They are moving in an undignified way to control the institutions. Look at what they've done in Guyana. They've succeeded in controlling the leadership of the police force, of the army. They've succeeded in controlling the leadership of GCOM, the electoral body. They've succeeded in killing trade unions that are not aligned with them. They've broken up the covenant that we call the vote today. Guyana is perhaps the only Caribbean country where a critical mass of our people are prepared to sell their votes, thanks to the government. They've destroyed the very fabric of our society. And since the CCJ is an apex court, our apex court, it does not escape their clutches. Sisters and brothers, in times like these, we got to move right. There's a temptation to lash out. I've always said, I recognize the problem with our jurisprudence in Guyana, and by extension, the English-speaking Caribbean. It's a jurisprudence that is status quo oriented. It's a jurisprudence that is grounded in a conservatism, conserving the status quo, conservatism, conserving. That our courts do not see themselves as agents of progressive change. But my critique of the courts do not lead me to abandon the institutions. Real fighters fight to change, to revolutionize the institutions. Not to abandon the institutions. I rather a country and the region with weak institutions than one without institutions. And that is why we are revolutionaries. I hear the calls. Let us get out of the CCJ. No, that is not the answer. Let us get out of the state of alienation and deprivation that the PPP has heaped on us. That is what we have to get out of. Understandably, there is a tendency among anti-government people, mostly African Guyanese, to look for solutions to our problems in places other than in ourselves and in our direct and indirect actions. If we get out of the CCJ, will that change the condition of our women who have to leave and go and do watchman work at nights? Will that change the situation that makes our women, mostly women, become the teachers and the nurses and the civil servants working for slave pay? No. When we get those things right, we will get government right. And if we get government right, we will get the CCJ right. When I was a young man getting into national politics as a teenager, we had a book we used to have to read, a book called What Is to Be Done by Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, the founder and theoretician of the Russian Revolution of 1917, and his first leader, Lenin, What Is to Be Done. I later found out that the PYO people had to read that book and the YSM people had to read that book. What is to be done? I haven't read that book in decades, but I remember parts of it. The title tells the story, What is to be done? This morning I called into the Guyanese Morning Time because I heard call after caller talking about leaving the CCJ, and then one caller said that the black organizations in Guyana, ACT and Coffee 250 and others, they don't make any political statements. They don't take a political stand in relation to their supporters. And so I decided to call in. And I dealt with the question of black organizations in Guyana. And I pointed out that in the last 60, 70 years, the only black organization that was pointedly political, was cultural, but it was also political, was ASCREA. And that none of the other black organizations was political in that way. And I had to draw attention to a tendency in the black community, not only here in Guyana, but all over the world, to say that black organizations must not be political. Strong, it's a strong view in the black community. And so when you see the black organizations that they form not being political, don't just blame the leaders. I am telling you, I belong to a couple of black organizations here in Buxton. The 1st of August movement, which is the organization that organizes emancipation activities. And in recent times, under my guidance, the organization has been inviting political leaders in the black community to come on the 31st of our village and to be part of our celebrations, to address our audiences. We have the political thing, the singing and the dancing and so on, but a lot of the key activists have disagreed with me. They've said that I risk turning the thing into a political thing. Many of them have silently withdrawn because they said, the thing is not political, we should have dance and song and so on. I agree with them. But I come from a different political persuasion in which I think that we must not only sing and dance, but we must fight. And so I didn't have any problems in bringing political people to address. I myself have been invited to other communities to address their emancipation thing. as a political person who is grounded in the culture. And so it is bringing it together, but there is a strong view in the community that emancipation is that we must sing, dance, drink, eat kanki, and drink swank, and must keep politics out of it. So when you see the black organizations behave in that way, it's not just the black organizations are of that view, the leadership. It's the ordinary people. I get that here. I wasn't involved in the organizing of the events in Buxton this year. Those who follow it will notice I sat in the audience. But the brothers and sisters who organized it did not invite a political person as we have done in recent times. They did not. It's a view in the black community that black organizations must stick to culture and must not be involved in politics. I don't subscribe to that view, but if people in the community are saying that, key activists, old ones and younger ones are saying that, one asked, if I were involved in the organizing this year, I would not have voted for any political content of the program. Not because I believe they should not be, but because I recognize that there are more people who don't want it than those who want it. It is where the community is, and where the community has been for a little while, but it has gotten bad now. Worse now. What is to be done? I called in this morning to talk about that issue and to talk about the CCJ, and I made comments, some of which I've made here tonight. One caller called in afterwards and said, Dr. Hines is bright, and I agree with him most of the time. But I don't have time with all that story that he talked about, why we mustn't do the CCJ. What I want to hear from Dr. Hines is what we must do. And that inspired the title of tonight's program, the topic of tonight's program, the title of tonight's program, what is to be done? I get that all the time, Dr. Hines, what are we going to do? I cannot tell the brother publicly what I think should be done. I will say what is to be done, what could publicly be said, and I would say that publicly. But I think we have drifted into a place of severe frustration in the black community. Walter Rodney had a thesis that guided the WPA. And that is the thesis of self-organization for self-emancipation. That our people needed to organize themselves in their communities, in their workplaces, in their political parties, and they need to be part of the fight for their own liberation. That if somebody comes and fight for your freedom and give it to you, then that person can come back the next day and say, give me back that freedom because you didn't fight fit. I fight fit and I give it to you. And so Walter Rodney developed the thesis of self-organization for self-emancipation. He was not original in it. but he brought it into the public space in Guyana. I think our people are at the point where they feel so frustrated that they're asking anybody who comes and dangles something in front of them. They say, I'm prepared to let you go and fight for my freedom. The attitude to Mr. Mohammed is precisely that. People have a lot of thesis about, black people voting for an Indian man, and those things are important but not fundamental. The fundamental thing is everybody has figured out that the black community is so beaten down that you can promise them anything. And everybody is trying to cash in. The PPP noticed that and it sought to cash in. I don't think Mr. Mohammed set out to do that, but he got into his trouble and he was urged to get into the political arena, and he found when he got into the political arena, there was a ready-made audience for him. People who wanted a Messiah, and there were people in the ranks of the PNC and APNU who felt that Norton was not that Messiah, never Norton. And our people bought that up. They bought that line. It's there, it's there in the black community. The dark-skinned black man has still not earned his keep in the black community. There is still that's colorism in the black community. And they played it on Norton, and it got wide acceptance. And when they say Norton is too black, it is not necessarily just pigmentation. Because some of the people who say Norton too black, their skin color darker than Norton. But it is where you come from. Your father used to sell Mabi, your mother sell at the corner of the road. You didn't go to certain Georgetown schools at a certain time. You see, people now go to Bishops and Queens. But it's not the same as when you went to Bishop and Queens 30 years ago and 40 years ago. Thank God Burnham broke up that thing. The school that you went to, who your mother was, who your father is, whether you're from a certain part of Georgetown or whether you are from certain parts of Linden or Denhamsdale, those things matter still in our community. So when they say Norton too black, it's not just his pigmentation where he does drink. Does he drink at the Georgetown Club? Or does he drink at Bamba Mali? All those things came together, and black people reached the lowest of low when they decide to cast their votes based on whether one of their leaders is too black or not too black. It was like undoing 4 centuries of work. But it was pushed by leaders in the PNC, overtly and covertly. Not as just a victim. I used to tell my friends here in Buxton, one of them especially, I used to tell, because he think it was personal to Norton. And I used to tell him, look, those people are going to have a drink with Norton when they see him. They're going to be nice to Norton when they see him. It is not Norton the person, it's what Norton represents. And that is why I stood with Norton, instructed by sections of my party. I say sections because I'd be lying if I say all of the people close to the WPA were of that view. But instructed by a majority of my party, I stood with Norton, not because I agreed with Norton's tactics and all of his strategies and so on. No, we have some significant disagreements. But once you begun to urge people to vote or not to vote for a party because its leader is of a certain type, then you're not getting past me with that. You see, I have said to people, I spoke the other day at Moses Bagwan's book launch, and somebody came up to me, a comrade came up to me and afterwards and, was congratulating me on my oratorial skills. I think I was described from the platform as a great orator. And so people came up to me afterwards and I thanked them. And this one lady said, David, you should run for president. And I told her privately that I hate to disappoint you, but I won't go into the details of that tonight. At the point I am making is that members of the PNC, some members of the PNC, some members of so-called Black civil society, some members of the Black middle class, not Norton. Norton could not be president. And that seeped down to our people. It's easy, in sections of the Black community for that kind of thing to fly. There was a time you couldn't get through with it. That was the time of Black power in the 60s and the 70s and 80s. You couldn't run that on Norton back in that time because we had developed a Black consciousness, a mass Black consciousness, thanks to the Black power movement. I come from a large family of 9. And I was reflecting the other day. My mother is very fair. And I suppose 6 of our children came out fair skinned. And 3 of us were dark skinned. But we never in Buxton get color problems. My fair skinned sisters and brothers. Red Man and Red Ezel and thing. It was during the time of Black consciousness. So when you were fair skinned, you got hell in Buxton. You got hell in Buxton when you were fair skinned. And I rather suspect in other Black communities during the 60s and the 70s and the 80s when Black power was its height. But once the Black power movement waned, I think our people drifted back into that kind of colorism. And so it was easy to damage Norton. It was a kind of consciousness thing. And that is why some people, I don't hold grudges, political grudges, or even personal grudges too long. But I refuse to engage some people who engage in that nonsense knowingly. And I said, do not call me now to come on no program to talk to you about no politics when you have damaged the self-esteem of Black people. I don't care if people didn't like Norton and they didn't like his politics and he grumpy and he authoritarian and I can live with that kind of critique. What I cannot live with is that in 2026, you drove our black people down a consciousness lane back to the plantation. I can't. But do not call me to come and talk to you. Do not do it. For that reason. And that is what some of our influencers, social media influencers, who given what the social media is, they will get 100 times more listeners and viewers than me, because I talk history and I talk in seriousness, and they're into political gossip. I know people like a good gossip, and where gossip and politics meet, boy, and they use that to tear down Norton, to tear down the PNC, and in the end, they didn't set out to do it, but they tear down black people. And so today, black people are floundering. And what to do? What is to be done? And it's not just black people on the ground, but some of our serious black leaders. We are beating up black people. Why they're not protesting? Why they're not this? They are not going to be protesting as black people when you didn't give them a black consciousness. If you don't give them a black consciousness, how are they going to defend their black interests? You always tell them about class. But they will defend their class interests. Probably. I don't see them doing much of it, but if you're always telling them about class, then you're socializing them to defend their class interests alone. Or if you tell them all the time about gender, then women will defend their gender interests and men will defend their gender interests. And if you tell them about one people, one nation, one destiny, then they will defend the Guyanese interests. And you don't want to tell them that part of their interest is racial because they live in a racialized society. Then you want them to act racial when you didn't give them racial consciousness. And when your enemies are working every day to delegitimize racial consciousness among black people, they don't do it among Amerindians, you know. They fall over each other to talk about our indigenous people as they must. We mustn't do this to our indigenous people as they must. We mustn't do that to our indigenous people. They're right. But when it comes that you mustn't do it to black people, they resort to a different language. Black leaders are into that. The major black party, most of its leaders are into that. So when, for 34 years, all black people taste of power, official power was 5 years. So 29 out of 34 years, they don't have a sense of black power in action, meaning black power in government, black power in the leadership of the institutions. And then you do not give it to them in culture. Why are we surprised that anybody can come and wave anything in front of the black community? Anybody who's not black. Because we have destroyed, some people would say that we have damaged the black product. Black leadership, after what we have done to Norton, it will take quite a while to build back public confidence among black people in black leadership. what is to be done. I called a comrade this morning who is calling for mass protests among black people. And I said to that comrade, you're wasting your breath. There's a reason black people are not engaging in mass protests. The last time there was any mass protest in the black community was 1997 to 1999 under Desmond Hoyt, organized by Aubrey North and others. So 30 years, we have socialized them to frighten mass protests. And the other side has introduced fear into them of mass protests. So state and the government, and timidity when it comes to mass protests on the side of their leadership. Why are we expecting in 2026 black people to come out in any number for protest anything? The collusion of the East Indian rulers to dominate black people, and the timidity of black leaders, cultural and political. The sum total is that black people see protests as a natural part of their political culture. And so every morning, every day, hey, why black people not coming out of, you all stop it. Black people are not robots. You turn off protests, and then when things get bad, you want to turn it on back. That's not how human beings work. That's robotic kind of behavior. And black people are not robots. There may be many things, but they're not robots. One of my comrades said that the lady who came out and protested in Amstel, she was sent at the school. They stopped she from selling the school because she come out and protest. And understandably, some of our people are saying that what we must do, this is what we must do. Some say we must go to the school and make sure that she can go in and sell and so on. But if she protests and they stop she from selling, you believe other people gonna come out and protest, knowing that she come out and protest that stop she from selling? You think other people are going to come out and protest that stop them from selling or walking or whatever? Where is our logic sometimes? The brother said this morning, Dr. Hines must come here and tell us what to do. I can't say everything that needs to be done publicly. That is not smart politics. I can talk about a general strategy, but I can't come and say, these are the tactics we should use, or these are the tactics we will use. That's clear. What is to be done? The PPP has to be removed, but not removed in an exchange way. The regime that the PPP has built up, this regime of domination, this regime of racial discrimination, that regime has to go. There are no ifs and buts. And when the state has become so strong, there are things people would normally do when the state is not overbearing, that they're not going to do when the state is as overbearing as the state. There was a time when the PPP could have said, here, I won't orchestrate any mass arrest in the black community because I'm not sure whether the police will obey me. As late as the story with the escapees in 2002, the PPP gave the army instructions, and by the PPP own testimony, the army didn't carry out the instructions. That was 20 years ago. Since then, what the PPP has done, it has taken control of the leadership of the army. And it knows now, when it gives instructions to the leadership of the army, they will carry it out. What happened to them with the escapees 20, 25 years ago, the PPP make sure it ain't going to happen again. The PPP has taken total control of the state, the coercive arm of the state. And to get human beings to stand up against coercion, you don't turn it on and turn it off. I know that even comrades, younger comrades that I engage with today, some of them are fearful of what I might say. Dr. Hines, don't slam them too much today. Part of our leadership has become, for good reason, they don't want to identify with radical political behavior. And so these are the people who are leading. These are the people who are engaging our people, at least electorally. These are the people who are giving them consciousness. There's a fear of radical. I know. I would invite people here every night to come on. But I don't bother to ask some of our leaders to come because I don't want to put them in a spot where they have to come against their wishes, or they have to not take me call or tell me no. Because I know I make some people uncomfortable. Because we have socialized the Black community and the Black leaders that come out of the community not to be radical. The PPP knows that. You look at Freddie Kissoon every night on the program. He has to call David Hines' name and Takumo Gonse and others. In his column, 4 out of 5 columns is about David Hines. They're not stupid. They do not want my radical message to seep into the Black community. Norton, do you agree with David Hines? Norton, this. No. And then when Norton said, if Norton go and say, well, yes, I disassociate myself from David Hines, what they call David Hines, so they start calling Norton tomorrow. They try to separate Terence Campbell from Norton. They try to separate Norton from Hines. They ain't succeed yet. I noticed one of them in his column this week talk about the triumvirate of Campbell, Norton, and Hines. They ain't pick me apart yet. So they put me together now. But they're speaking not to Indian people. The Indian people ain't gonna vote for Norton and Campbell and Hines. I put my neck on the platter for that. Not today, not tomorrow, not 2030. They may at some point, but not now. So when those Indian commentators are speaking, Freddie Kissoon and them, they're not speaking to Indian people. They're speaking to Black people. Because they tell you in private that Black people are gullible. I've heard tape recordings of conversation with some of those people in which they have said that Black people are gullible. That's where you have to go. Some people invited Brother Mohammed to come into the black community, and they tell him, come, you're going to get votes. And Brother Mohammed, no, that's the way he does. He just expose the thing. I give somebody money, somebody tell me to run for president. He exposing them. And a lot of them are black leaders, black influencers, who told the brother thing to come in to the black community. You have a ready-made audience. They're gullible. No, my problem is not that black people vote for Mohammed, you know. That's my problem. My problem is the way in which the black leadership, like the slave catchers of old, sold black people electorally in 2025. I know they had a tactical move, as I said last night. Some of them thought that, you know, they're going to use Mohammed. He might win the election and then we're going to take away the thing from him because he can't run government. He's going to depend on we, the Afro-Saxons, to run the government. Some of them think that they will use Mohammed to bring about a minority government. So I'm sure some of them, the thing was tactical. But what started out as tactics now has become strategy. And the sight of black people cussing for PPP, cussing for WIN, cussing for APNU. In the first place, they all believe that that's all we are worth, cussing. And secondly, we become the cuss buds for everybody. And how much you pay cuss birds? $40,000. The PPP just give them the 10-day workers, so that's what you all call them, must be $40,000. I understand the others give $40,000. You don't pay cuss birds too much, you know. What is to be done? I think the black leaders have to admit that we either intentionally or not intentionally got conned in 2025. I think we have to admit it. In the process, we have brought our people to a new low, a low. Low in morale, low in terms of our capacity to see what is the tree and what is the forest and distinguish between them. Our people are at a very low. Even those who were brave enough to vote for APNU, among that section, there is also doubts. You see this thing walk on people's mind. Some of my friends, and that's why I know they're not malicious, because they're my friends. They're telling me, Dr. Hines, what you talking about history? Talk about present day. In a sense, what they're saying is that our people need only red meat. We can get mouth feed, other kind of meat. Don't worry, consciousness. Look at how people going on. Brother Mohammed is doing some good work. Standing up in front of the PPP property and said, this is what corruption look like under the PPP. There's good work. But our people has reduced political change to that. When they want to say, come out and protest, they're not going to Mohammed, you know. They're coming to Abrinat and me and say, well, we will go protest. So we are protesting, we must go there and we must protest. And Mohammed must say, this is what corruption looks under the PP. Our people have become frustrated, politically disoriented, and so therefore they're not acting in ways that you expect the community to act when it's in trouble. And we as leaders have to admit that. We have to admit the role that external forces played, but the role that we inside play. It is still difficult to get some APNU leaders to say the word African. They're afraid. At a point when we have nothing to lose, because we don't lose 2/3 of our votes. And yet, we are cautious. What is to be done? You cannot be overly cautious today. What is it you're trying to win or get? If you're thinking electorally, you gotta get back your vote. And do you think by just talking about equitability of suffering will get you back black votes? Or get you back Indian votes? It won't get you Indian votes because Indians know that there may be some equality in the suffering, but not equitability. You got to talk to black people about the equitability in suffering or disequitability. And we're not prepared to do that. We are prepared to say there's a level playing field of suffering. There is not. If there are 10 little crumbs, black people get 1 out of the 10 little crumbs. The PPP is teaching Indian people how to impersonate identity, to get votes and to get money. You go in the Indian community, they're showing me how one man get 5 cash grant because he get 5 names. The black PPP people coming in the black community and say, hey, come, look 4 names, go and get 4. They're not doing that. They're looking after themselves. Because that's what they're going in the PPP for. But the PPP activists on the ground in the Indian community saying, don't worry with the 100,000 cash grant. We going to take care of that. We going to take care of them. You go get 6. And you go end up with $600,000. And then black man crash there, go get 100,000. And you see how them a lick down Matty? And you not lick down Matty, and you think I go come? What is to be done? The first thing that has to be done is that black leaders have to recognize that they sold the black people out. In their desperation to get rid of the PPP. They played around with black solidarity. They gambled with black solidarity. And now black solidarity is gone. You're asking black people to come out now and face the bullets divided. I am not into that. I'm not into that. Somebody sent me a video. I went to give some solidarity on West Coast Bobbies last week. I went to Hope Town, where the president went with his outreach. And there were some spirited women there with us, and we got our point over. And then somebody sent me a video with a brother who was out there with us, and I finally get the hand wrong. You been out there with the protesters? Yeah. The weapons stripping is right? Yeah. That is what PPP is prepared to do to black people. And some of our black people are prepared to allow themselves for it to be done to them. There was a man who been out there protesting with me. But Ali telling him he's not stripping this, and he said, yeah. Ali get the hand wrong. You think 30 years ago, Ali would have dared do that in Hope Town? Dare do that in Hope Town? What is to be done? As I said, it's not just the black masses. It's the black leaders, the top tier leaders, some of them, the second tier leaders, some of them, the influencers, those of us who have the microphone here every night, every day. Some of us are lost. We are lost. We can't take the jamming. The jamming is tight because the PPP is relentless. And now Mohammed coming from Hikana. The jamming's tight. And a lot of our influencers don't know what to do. And they're lashing up and calling for things. I said enough.